So today we're talking about books again, what a shocker. But I wanted to talk about emotions because your girl is a Cancer, so I am a huge emotional person. I am a sensitive little Sally. And books make me have big emotions. And so I typed into Google, what are the top 5 emotions? And what it told me was anger, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, and surprise. I changed it a little bit because I was like, anger and disgust are very similar emotions to me. I group them in together. Like when I'm angry at somebody, I'm also disgusted at somebody, and vice versa. So I combined anger and disgust and I added my own one, which is love, because we'll be in my lover girl era. How about that? So let's get into my emotions, books that made me have big emotions. Let's get started. Okay, starting off strong, we're gonna start with fear. This book gave me nightmares, and there was times that I had to stop reading this book because I would go to bed and have dreams that I was stuck in the state of this character. And that is the one and only Handmaid's Tale. I love Margaret Atwood. I think she's a fantastic writer. I've read 2 or 3 of her books. Obviously, The Handmaid's Tale was my first book, but there was times when I would wake up from a nightmare because I was so stressed about being stuck and not having control of the situation and being fearful of my life. And it was during the time that I was reading The Handmaid's Tale. And I was so stressed that at one time I said to myself, okay, Maggie, you need to take a pause from this book because it's clearly seeping into your subconscious and you are literally dreaming about it and putting yourself in a situation, because I'm also an empath. So I tend to put myself in situations easily. So I was putting myself into the main character and not being able to escape. And it really stressed me out. And I love The Handmaid's Tale. I think it's like a 5 out of 5 book, but I definitely had to take it in sections because I was so afraid of becoming that character. So that is fear. Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Okay, let's go into happiness to change. Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maher. Never know how to say her last name, I'm so sorry. Why I chose this one for happiness is because when I was reading this book, I was just having a silly, fun, goofy time. And when I think of being happy, that's the emotions that come along with happiness. Silly, goofy, fun, just along for the ride. And that's what happens in this book. You follow Evie and the villain and their lives and how it intertwines. Evie is the villain's assistant, but they also have this weird, awkward, romantic interest in each other. They also have just like silly situations that they're put into, which is why people call it a mix of The Office and Shrek. If it had a baby, it would be this book and that series, which I totally agree. And I love Shrek. I've never seen The Office, sue me. But I just loved this book, and I think you can tell by that since I've read the second, I've read the third, or I'm reading the third now. I've read all the series except for the last one, which I'm going to read soon. So I liked this series. I love this world. I was happy in this world, and that is why I chose it for my happiness emotion. Okay, let's talk about sadness. My strongest emotion, and obviously my least favorite one because who likes to be sad, but I loved the series Thursday Murder Club. I think Richard Osman did a fantastic job of sucking people into these senior citizens' lives and making you care about them. Obviously, Elizabeth is one of the main characters, and she has a husband who has Alzheimer's. I, thank God, touch wood, do not have anybody in my family or my world that has Alzheimer's, but the thought of having your husband, your lifelong partner, lose his memory and forget your guys' life that you built together. I remember reading this on the train while I was going to meet my husband and his family, just sobbing because it comes to a point where he has his Alzheimer's goes real downhill and he's just not healthy as that he could be with his disease, and it just destroyed me. It was like somebody opened up my chest. Also, this is silly to say, but I love my husband. Some people are married to people that they don't love. They don't even like them. I like my husband. I love my husband. And the thought of us building an entire life together, which obviously I want to happen, but then one day one of us potentially being in that position where we spend all of our lives building this incredible life together, and then one loses all of those fun, amazing, hard memories, and the other one has to just support and somehow carry on. That just sounds horrendous, and I'm so sorry for anybody who has to deal with that, having a loved one who has Alzheimer's. Or that is one of my biggest fears, is losing my husband. Like, even talking about it, I'm like, so when I was reading books, I usually don't cry from them. I usually cry more from like a series or a movie, but that book destroyed me. And I don't even think I said this specific one that I meant to say, but it's The Bullet That Missed. I believe that's the third one. If you have somebody who has Alzheimer's in your life, that series might be extremely difficult and triggering for you, just to warn or whatever. But the series is fantastic. But oh God, did I hate reading that section when they had to do certain things, and I just was hysterically crying on a French train to then go see my husband, and he was very confused when he picked me up, and I was a wreck. So I nominate The Bullet That Missed as my sadness emotion. Next one, surprise. So I do love a murder mystery or a thriller, those genres. I'm actually getting really into them lately, but sometimes I can just guess. Like, if it's gonna be a husband and wife mystery, obviously the husband killed her, because who else would have done that? So when I started the guest list, I just assumed I was gonna know who was the murderer. And the guest list is based around a wedding in Ireland. I lived in Ireland for a short amount of time, so Ireland has a very special place in my heart. So I already loved it then. I love weddings. I think they're so fun, even though last year planning your own wedding, super stressful, would not recommend that. But when I read this book, you are on this Irish island, and everybody on the island is somehow connected to the wedding. And you get different POVs of the different people involved in the wedding. And the person that dies is, again, somebody in the wedding. And I had no idea, who was going to die, because it's not one of those murder mysteries that you know who dies right away and then you backtrack. You know that somebody dies, but then you don't figure out, I want to say the first 2/3 into the book, you don't figure out who actually dies until that point. So that I also liked, like the mystery of trying to figure out A, who died, and then B, who killed them. So I really enjoyed that. And I honestly had no idea who the murderer was and what their motive was, because a lot of people had different motives, but the person who ended up being the killer was not even somebody on my list of the possible murderer. So with that, I think, what's her name? Lucy Foley. I think she did a great job. I was like blown away by this book and how much it did surprise me. I thought the reason why the person murdered the other person was understandable. I mean, murder is not a good thing, and nor should you do it for whatever reason, but I completely understood what motivated this person to then murder the other person. And I thought the entire book was fantastic. There's a lot of side characters with a lot of subplots, and I really understood the importance of the subplots in connection to the bigger plot. So I just think Lucy really did a good job of breaking down so many different topics and putting it all together and making it a really cohesive story. Sorry if you could hear the outside horns, that's what you get for living in a city. So the guest list I would highly recommend, and I hope you find it surprising as well. Okay, now we're going to talk about love, and we're going to talk about Elsie Silver. I know. And we're going to talk about Frontrunner. I know a lot of people love the Chestnut Springs series. I've also read all of the Chestnut Springs series, and I love some of them. But I think the series before, which I can't think of the name, the Golden Ranch or something Ranch series, I think a lot of people sleep on that. I really loved 2 of the 4 books. One being the Frontrunner, you follow Stefan and Mira. And I really like romance books where the man falls in love with a woman who's a strong, smart, independent woman and doesn't try to minimize her to make him feel masculine. because Mira is a horse veterinarian, extremely intelligent woman in her own right, successful, just has friends. She has such a well-rounded life, and that's what Stefan is attracted to. And he falls in love with her and lets her shine as the human being that she is. And I feel like in just both the real world and then also in a lot of books, sometimes male main characters try to push their jealousy of their partner onto the partner and make them feel bad for all the amazing qualities that they have. So I really liked that he was so enamored with her and continued to support her and be there for her. So that's one of the reasons why I loved this book, and I loved their love for each other. I really enjoy reading those kind of dynamics. They also were enemies to lovers, which is something that I do enjoy, but I like how this enemies to lovers was written. It wasn't as cliche and corny as some, I would say, more recent enemy to lovers are, just because authors know that it's a popular genre and it's now coming a little like enemies to lovers. But I really truly believed their bickering and their back and forth. So I would highly recommend Frontrunner. I think it is one of Elsie Silver's better books, and I think you should check it out. And lastly, to talk about anger and disgust. So I don't know if you can tell from any of my videos, but I am a feminist. I believe that we as women are incredible human beings, and this book is like a good for her book, and that is Slewfoot by Broom. So I saw this quote on, well, it's not even a quote, it was somebody's opinion on Goodreads, and they said the book was insufferable in the best way, which is 1000%. So you follow the female main character, a woman named Abatha, living in a Puritan colony back in the day in America. Unfortunately, her husband dies, and then she has to take over basically living as a single woman back in a days where you needed a man to survive. And just there's so many obstacles that come in her way because of certain men in her surrounding trying to put her down, trying to take things from her that they think that they are entitled to. I swear I'm not a man hater, but male entitlement is something that puts me off so much in a book, whether that's entitlement because they think they're more intelligent than the female character, that they own things that they do not own, whether that is the woman's body or actual other property like houses. The entitlement of some of the men in this book enraged me. Obviously, it's a good for her story, so you just gotta suffer through the times where the disgusting men are doing disgusting things, but that's the entire point, because that is how society used to work and sometimes still works. That men had the final say in a lot of things, and us as women had nothing that we can do to change it. But reading that and trying to deal with the things that she had to put up with and be so strong, when you're reading it, it's like, oh my God, this is so unjust. And it was making me so angry. Which is why this is honestly, it was one of my favorite books of 2025. I think Broom did such an amazing job of writing the characters that needed to be awful. He did such a good job of writing Abatha's character and her strength and her intelligence. This story is so captivating, and by the end of it, you're just so happy for Abatha and the things that she was able to accomplish, even though no one really wanted her, well, bar one person, or two, let's say two people, wanted her to achieve. So stick with this book and just get through your anger in it, because you will probably be angry with characters if you are also a feminist. Those are my big 5 emotions that books have made me feel. I don't know which, actually I know. I don't like to be angry in books, but sometimes it's needed because they're talking about important messages, so I guess I have to keep them. But I would say my favorite emotion would probably be happiness and love, but that's kind of a cop-out. I would say let's evict sadness from the group. I don't want to read any sad books, which is why I'm hiding my soul from crying in H Mart because everybody says it's just soul destroying. And I don't think I can do that. I'm a ginger, I don't even have a soul. What am I supposed to do? But yes, these were 5 books that made me feel big emotions. And what books made you feel real strong emotions? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.